What is? What is up, Cabbage Crew? It is Matt and John here for another Korra reaction. Season 3 Change is the subtitle of Season 3 of Korra. And we're going to review it, break down some of the thoughts we have, or John has. I've seen this season a few times. It's been a minute. John recently just watched it for the second time. For the second time. So we're gonna be breaking down a few thoughts we have, and we can kind of give our negatives and positives that maybe at the end. But to start everything, I want to just get because season 1 you seemed like it was better than you remembered, somewhat messy, and maybe came to a tumbling end, I guess you could say. Like, it wasn't a strong ending. Season 2, you seemed very negative about certain things, for the most part. What's your thoughts about season 3?
I'm just gonna lay it out like this. Flameo, sir. Flameo.
I'll take it. I told you.
It was superb.
I told you.
Yeah.
I told you. See, and I think season 3 and season 4 are about par of each other.
Yeah.
For different reasons. But yeah.
And I'm very much looking forward to going to the deeper dive on why it is superb and everything that goes along with season 3.
Yeah. Season 4, you can probably already tell about how this season ended, which we'll get to obviously, but season 4 is a little bit more emotional now that you have time with these characters and you're like, okay, now you have time to breathe, get behind these characters. Now season 4 pushes a little bit more on the buttons of emotion, kind of like season 2 of Avatar: Last Airbender did.
Right.
So it rounds out pretty well. So, all right, well, we'll just get right into it then. Pretty much straight off the bat, episode 1, Boomy and other normal citizens, non-benders, now gain bending, airbending. Wouldn't it be funny if Amon's strategy worked and everyone's not a bender anymore, and then all of a sudden there's a bunch of airbenders? He's like, oh gosh. Yeah. So a bunch of airbenders now pop up due to the harmonic convergence. What was your thoughts on how they handled the genocide of airbenders and no more airbenders? How are we going to now make them airbenders? This was their device of doing it, which was the convergence. How did you take that?
I mean, I was kind of indifferent about it because you had to explain it somehow. If you were going to make another air nation, like, you can't just have Tenzin have kids and then Tenzin's kids have kids and then they might be airbenders and then, like, that's a whole other, like, a slow population growth that way. But if they wanted to do it the way that they did in terms of the harmonic convergence, then this was the only way to do it. I'm just indifferent about it. I have pros and cons with it. The pros being, like, it elevates the story, and then the cons of, like
how they got there.
Yeah, it's how they got there.
Yeah. I feel the same way. I feel like, not to compare it, but I feel like Marvel does this a lot, where it's like, I like how they got to their destination, but sometimes I'm like, they could have done it a little bit better in certain situations. But because now we have it, everything after is going to be great. So, like, in one episode, I think they made me be like, turned off on how they explained how everyone got airbending back. But now we have a great season or two of now a bunch of airbenders, and now it's kind of like a normal world. That being said, I don't think we've talked about this before, but I would like to, which is bending something that you get off of genetics, right? Like, if you're an airbender, does someone in your family line, a parent, have to be an airbender? Or could you, I mean, we've talked about this before. Like, if there was an airbender that had a non bender and then the genocide hits, but the non bender is still alive, maybe they get away, they go live in Ba Sing Se, could generations later, they have a airbender now? I think that could have been maybe explained, and maybe they could have explained it that way. So then they could have had a couple airbenders in Ba Sing Se, maybe imprisoned. Maybe they've been imprisoned for years there, like they kind of already like did in the show. Um, but I do think that was a weak way of explaining it, personally.
Sure.
Um, Now, I will say, the end of the episode, an explanation of how the villain is now an airbender.
Hmm.
That is cool.
Because of
So
the
what?
convergence. I mean,
Because exactly.
it follows the convergence story. So
Right. Right. So what did you think about Zahir, the Red Lotus, and really will break down all of his Red Lotus members? What did you think about that character?
overall, you're talking about like episode one or throughout the whole
Just
season?
overall, Zahir. What did you think about Zahir?
Great villain.
Yeah. Dare I say the second best villain of Avatar: Last
He's the
Airbender?
second best. He passed him on for me.
I think so. I think it's Azula, and then Zahir.
Oh, in terms of like overall villain,
Hmm.
I was talking about just Legend of Korra stuff.
No, I'm talking
Oh, overall.
Avatar world. I mean, he's better than Zhao. He's better than Long Fang. I would say he's definitely better than Fire Lord Ozai.
Because we don't get much.
I
We
don't
really
count
don't get much of
Zuko as
Ozai.
a no. I
No,
mean, I wouldn't even count Zuko as a villain. He's more of an anti-hero that
it'd
turns
be
good.
Azula and Zahir. I
Yeah.
actually agree with you. Like in terms of like how much information we get from the villain. Yeah.
Hmm. There you go, John. See, I knew you would like this season, John. I knew it. I'm happy that
But
you
that
liked
doesn't mean I don't have my other negative opinions about.
it. Which we'll get into.
Yeah.
So you did like Zahir. What made you like Zahir?
I liked the voice actor they chose for him. Um, just very like witty, very like low tone voice.
Hmm.
Um, he was very serious and he knew what he was talking about. Like he had a
Hmm.
purpose. Um, and there was a sense of uh he believed what he was saying. He wasn't just like doing it because of other people. Like he was like a leader and
Mm.
uh for his group, and he thought he was doing for the greater good
Right.
of all humanity. Like he thought he was a good guy rather than a villain per se. If you, in a certain way of looking at it,
Hmm.
um, where other villains in the show, you could clearly pretty much see it as uh, more of a villainous approach, where there you don't really see the good, or sorry, you don't really see the um,
Good intentions.
yeah, good intentions
Right.
that they're trying to do. Um, but with Zahir, like he has a story to tell, and he illustrates that and for his reasoning for. I mean, we'll get into it, but like his reasoning for trying to capture Korra and all this other mumbo jumbo. There's a philosophical approach to it, which is I disagree with it, but it's there. Like it's like
Hmm.
okay, I haven't thought about that before. I still disagree with it, but it's a different approach.
Yeah, I would say the best, like I mean, they talk about it all the time. I would say the best villains are always villains that think that they're right and think that they are the heroes.
Right.
And I think it's actually a character says this in season 4. I'm not going to say who,
Sure.
but they basically break down that all Korra's villains had a point and they were right, but then they went to extreme.
Yep.
So season 1, Amon had a point. Like there is kind of a power struggle in non-benders and benders, and some benders do take advantage of their bending ability to
Right.
start wars or to use it for power. Um, season 2, Unalaq had a point to maybe put together or at least help the bridge between the spirit world and the physical world,
And
right?
Korra followed through
And
to that.
Korra followed through to that, right? Season 3, Amon has a point where maybe the way of leadership in
Means it
this
here.
world, Zahir, I'm sorry, the way of leadership in this world is not the way of going about it. Season 4, the
Right.
villain
Yeah.
also has her reasoning. So
Right.
like Amon very much again took it too far and was like, we need no leaders, but also the Avatar needs to die, and
Right.
we need to end the Avatar cycle. So
Right.
that it's like took it to the next little bit too far. I always have liked I like Zahir because he is much like Azula in this way, but like calm and collective.
That's what I was
It's like
trying to say. That's perfect. Yeah. Calm and
calm and
collected.
collective to the point where what he's saying is believable and you can
That's
understand why he has followers. And it's like, and because he's wise, because he's witty, because he's knowledgeable and knows what he's doing when it comes to fighting and everything, he's believable, and it's easy to follow him. And you would understand why he has kind of followers for the Red Lotus, and why even when like Katara's talking to him, she's like, "You kind of have a point. Like I get what you're saying, but like it shouldn't be this way." Like when they were talking in the spirit world, Korra almost was like siding with him a little bit, like, "Yeah, you kind of are right."
right.
Um, so let's go kind of, and that's why I really like him as a character. Maybe it's because it's um, the same uh qualities, I guess you could say, as Azula. At least
Similar, not the same, but similar.
finale, but similar. The rest of the Red Lotus. I might butcher some of these names, but you probably know more than me. Is it Gazan?
That's what the subtitles told me. That's what the sub
Yeah, they only say his name, I think, like 2 or 3 times. I think it was Gazan.
Dazan and that, but like in the beginning
Gazan.
of episode 2, I wrote down Chazan or Chazan.
No, it was definitely a G. I think
Then
it
it
was
was Dazan.
Gazan.
Then it yeah. So it's
Yeah, and all these
Dazan.
characters, we won't break them down per character because none of them have too much going on with them. But you have Gazan, you have Minwei, and you have Pai Li.
Piley, yeah.
Um, all of them are benders that specialize in sub bending in a way. All of them are super powerful, like Zuko says. Like all of them have the capability of taking down the entire world together. Um, so just to kind of break down, obviously their powers. Zahir is an airbender, very much highest level you can be when it comes to spiritual. Gazan can lava bend. Minwei can utilize water as essentially hands. She does not have limbs or at least arms, so she utilizes it as hands, which allows her to just do a lot of crazy things. And then Pai Li is able to combustion bend. So thoughts on all those characters? Did you not like certain things? Did you like certain things? Creativity. Where were you with that?
I loved all of them. Now whether or not I mean we already have our opinions about like how sub bending is becoming more of a normal thing. That's its own side piece, whether or not
Mm-hmm.
we agree with that. But um, in terms of like how it looks badass, oh yeah, it looks badass. Um,
Well, we'll say real quickly if you break it
yeah,
down. So lava bending. We know there was an avatar with lava bending
yeah,
before.
hmm
Besides that, I would not say Gazan is the issue. I think we'll talk about this later. Bolin learning lava bending might have been kind of an issue for me. But like Gazan, they specifically say like he's one of the most powerful earthbenders right now in this generation.
mm,
And then Pai Li's combustion bender, we only know two as of right now, we only know of 2 of them. So those are rarer subbending, like I would say.
right.
Um Zahir gets a subbending, I guess you could say, that is not only one other person ever had. And then Minwei doesn't really have a subbending, it's just how she uses her actual bending
Right.
is just unique. Um
AKA Great Delisle, Ming Wei.
yes. So um
Also voiced Azula, for those that don't know.
Zula. Personally, I really like the Red Lotus. I like the idea of like a team avatar, but for villains, and that
hmm
they're all just mean, we kind of get that with the Zola's crew, but like all four of them are just like one of them could take down the entire Team Avatar,
It's true. Yeah.
and now you have four different ones. So it's like when people say like Aang versus Korra, who would win in a fight? Like I always say that if you give me 18-year-old Korra versus 12-year-old Aang, it's Korra. And that's not fair, really, because Korra's been training for a decade, Aang's been training for 8 months, and Aang is 7 years younger than her, 6 years, depending on when you want to talk. Like if it's 22-year-old Korra that you're going to get in season 4. Spoiler alert. But time jump. But yeah. So I've always said Korra would beat Aang pretty easily, in my opinion. Which it maybe is a topic about another day. But
Yeah, this is topic for another day.
Yeah, but that just shows how powerful they are because they are single-handedly pretty much going toe-to-toe with her, in a sense. Now, let's kind of get to the story of season 3, now that we've broken down a couple characters. So, from what I remember, and you probably remember more than me, I mean, what happens before the Metal Clan? Not much.
Well, Zahir escapes.
With the main crew, I guess they're just looking for more airbenders for the first like 2 to
Correct.
3 episodes, right? Okay.
Yep. And then like they had the whole episode where Tenzin was teaching them, and they didn't like Tenzin teaching them, and they were like, "Boomy, you're in charge, Major." And everyone didn't like the way Tenzin was operating things, and then Boomy got to be in charge a little bit more freely because Tenzin wanted to be more hands off to see if there was going to be a difference. And so that was definitely like a one-off episode 2. But I will say, like, before the Metal Clan, it was just running up airbenders. Like there's that one it was like an 8-minute scene, which was hilarious, about them going to Ryu's house, and he was the kid that was in the basement that was like living with his mom, and like it was like such a Gen Z episode. It was very cool and funny for that scene. Like, you need, oh my gosh, finally someone to take my son out of the house. It's like it was like him finding a girlfriend and like, oh my gosh, you're coming over, please take my son away. And
do you think that maybe episodes 1, 2, 3, everything before the Metal Clan stuff, I know it's needed, but do you think it seems like the main characters are the side plot? Would you agree to that?
Yeah, a little bit. Because like that's when we get introduced to Kai as well, which I love. Right. I like Kai a lot.
Yeah, I like Kai.
Cobra Kai. But no, yeah, I think everything before that was needed.
Hey, real quick. Try to get a little bit more level than me. I mean, you can always move your computer if you have to. Like, can you move it up and down? Like, is it a laptop?
Like that?
Yeah, but go back to where you just were.
Like that?
Yes, but then I would say that's actually fine, personally. Maybe slide over a little bit. No, the other way. Like slide your whole computer over to avoid the light. Yes, and then keep going. Yeah, and then go right there. Can you not do that?
I'm at the edge of my desk, man.
Okay. Well, go back to where you just were.
I thought we were fine with that light.
Well, your head was literally like your hair was gone, so you were way up and I was way down. We want to be next to each other. When someone's watching, you want to be able to look at both of us, at the same. Okay. All right. Sorry. Continue. That's perfect. Yeah.
Okay.
Continue. I'll keep it all that in.
Of course you are. But yeah, all those episodes were needed before the Metal Clan, but the main characters were the side characters for a little bit. I do agree with that.
Sometimes your main piece turns into your side piece for a little bit.
And then when it all comes together, it becomes One Piece.
One Piece season 2 announced.
That's right. But yeah, I like getting to know Kai. Like I thought he was gonna be like trouble, like for a good bit. But then
Hmm.
he actually turned out to be a pretty good kid. So I was actually happy about that.
Yeah, by season 3, we have a lot of characters. I think they do a pretty good
Mhm.
job at balancing the characters, which we'll talk about a couple more that add in. But you have new characters just in this season. You have Kai, you have obviously Zahir and his group, so that's 4 new characters. Kai reintroducing Zuko, um, and then introducing Sue and her entire family. Now most of them are throwaway family members, but Opal's important. So I mean that's like 6, 7. You know, the advisor as well. That's like 6, 7, 8 new characters that they introduce in 5 episodes, plus the 15 characters. Like you have Boomy and Kaya and Tenzin, and obviously Team Avatar, which we barely even talk about Mako. But Mako, Bolin, Sami, Korra, like Janora, his kids, like there are a good amount of characters in this series. Where I feel like Avatar: Last Airbender, it's like 6 characters that you mainly followed for the most part. Some characters that popped up here and there, but it was very much like Team Avatar, Zuko, Azula, her team, and that's about it. And then like side stuff that would they pop in and
It
leave.
was easier to follow.
Yeah, it was very easier to follow, probably for that reason. Where this is like, maybe that's why it was so smooth. Where this is a little bit messy at times, because sometimes you do sit there and you're like, all right, we have this side plot with Boomy and Tenzin. Let's get back to the main story. Sometimes there is. It's like, what's going on with Mako? Okay, let's check in on him. So sometimes they do a good job at these side plots. Sometimes they don't. I think this season they did a better job and I told you this going into the season, but they did a better job at actually making a team avatar where you actually had a group of friends together. They're not breaking up a lot. And it's like a group of friends together. They go on a mission together. And there was like a 4 or 5 episode plot with the main team avatar with maybe 1 or 2 side plots going on. Before all that happens, we go to the Metal Clan. What's your thoughts on the Metal Clan? What's your thoughts on Sue? Anything specific that you want to talk about?
I like the Metal Clan. Like Sue, we finally find that Lynn has a half sister.
Mm-hmm.
And their family dynamic is very interesting. Kind of it made complete sense, and I actually appreciated the episode where they like fight and like they actually like kill each other. Um, and like Lynn almost dies, and and because she's sick, but uh, she was like, "I'm still gonna fight my sister." After the acupuncture lesson, um, I just appreciated that their side of the story, both sides of the story, because um, you get Lin, who wanted to please Toph. You get Su Yin, who was more of like the hippie rebellious child, um, who was going astray, but then finally came back to uh, like her senses and like became more of a like more of a centralized figure in like in her family with Toph,
Mm-hmm.
as a daughter of Toph, and so even though Su Yin didn't essentially, Toph was angry at Lin for becoming police chief, even though Lin wanted to do that to please her mom,
Mm-hmm.
and Su Yin did what her mom wanted her to do by like being more carefree because Toft was raised so strict. And she let both her daughters be more like decide their own fate and like control her own destiny. Um,
Mm.
and like I said, Su Yin uh, had essentially Lin was probably more her mom than Toph was, to be honest. At least that's what it seemed like, because like Toph was too busy running Republic City um and was it yeah it was Su Yin who after she got in trouble with the triple triads that that's when Toph like a year or two later like stepped down as police chief to like watch over her.
I don't remember that part, but I will say that there is something to be said about what you just said with Toph letting her choose her own destiny type of thing, where it's like her family didn't allow her to do what she wanted, so she was like, "Look, you want to be rebellious? Be rebellious. It's fine. Do what you want to do, just not here." He's like, "You gotta leave." Not, I mean, like, not in a banishing way, but it's like, look, if you stay here, it's gonna look bad for our family. So do what you want to do, but just not here. You're old enough to go explore the world, and it allowed her to be at the peak of her abilities when it comes to like how she could change the world and benefit the world by not being held down. That's what happened to Toph. Toph felt like she could do better from what she was given and her circumstance where she was, and her parents didn't let her leave, but she left and she benefited the world from it. Um, I will
Right.
I will say I do appreciate the backstory as well. You see a younger when you see a younger Sue and Lynn, and you see how the scar gets there.
That was a
Um,
very emotional scene. I was like, so that's how that happened.
and I don't know if the writers knew that going into it. They might just made that cool scar, and we were like, "Look, we'll find out." I mean, I'm sure Zuko's scar was planned, but maybe
Hmm.
Lynn wasn't. Maybe they just thought of it later. But it is interesting. It's like Sue's sisters and are now cool, but one got a scar from them from the other
And Lin
due to
still
her
resents Su
bad
Yin
behaviors.
after all these years.
Yeah, up until now, and then they where obviously they make up. Um, do you know that um voice of Toph was her name?
Michaela uh,
Michaela Murphy.
Murphy, yeah.
She voices young Sue.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, yeah. Which is cool.
Yeah.
So yeah, so when they get there, Varric appears.
Comes out of nowhere.
Comes out of
Julie!
nowhere. Yeah, it comes out of nowhere. Again, one of my favorite lines. I blew up that building. It's just great. So I love Zahir. Adding Zahir into the mix again. Um, we talked about it a little bit earlier, but Korra now learns metal bending. Seem metal like we talked about metal bending is seeming to get easier and easier to learn, where it seemed like it was a very tough technique to learn. And obviously, it took him months of training from Toph. Toph learned her own way due to being blind and being a master bender. It seemed like Korra found out how to metal bend pretty quick.
It was very quick. My immediate thought was like, oh, Korra is the first metal bender. I was like, what about Aang? Like, he had all those years to learn from Toph.
Yeah, I guess the argument would be that Aang was never good at earth bending because it's like every bending style you could say has a personality trait attached to it.
Correct, that's true. But
So the opposite of they said in the show, or they said I think in After Hours Airbender, it's the opposite bending. So like fire and water, earth and air,
correct. Yeah, correct.
right? But my belief is the opposite personality trait because Korra learned fire really easily
Hmm.
because her personality is fiery. But the
Hmm.
opposite of fiery personality is a little bit more passive, which is air. That's why she struggled with air.
Right.
Aang was the opposite of his personality was like stubborn and solid, and he was more of a pacifist. Hey, I'm gonna dodge, I'm gonna avoid the conflict as much as I possibly can, I'm gonna run away when things get tough. So that was why he was tough for earth to learn earthbending. So like the argument is with Aang not learning earth is that he already wasn't a great earthbender, so maybe metal bending was just too tough for him, and there was no reason for him to try to learn it. There are, no other metal benders besides Toph and a bunch of police officers. So maybe he did. Maybe he did. We just never saw. Maybe he learned it when he was, well, they said the first Avatar. So yeah, you're right. Yeah, and he just never did. Interesting.
it's just like if Angel had one of the best, he could have learned it. That's just where I fall. I was like,
Well, to be fair, if Aang, the argument of Aang being one of the best avatars ever
I'm
could
not
still
saying
be
necessarily
there
ever, but
because none of the no one else learned, like none of the other avatars learned it, so they don't have that up on him. You know,
no,
it's like
but like
yeah,
you would think that like if I was Aang, I'd be like, oh, Toph, metal bending. Can I learn?
yeah. He was like, I'd be defeated. I defeated those. I don't even know anything else now. Like he's like, oh, what am I learning things for? Oh, he's like, I can take people's bending away. What the heck? What, do you want me to build a house? um. All right, so let's we talked about the sisters. So now let's jump kind of into the story more. Um, Zahir is meets up with the Earth Queen, and you go into Ba Sing Se, where Bolin and we're kind of going out of order here, but Bolin and Mako are finally reuniting with some of their family members, if not their entire family besides their parents. And when they get to Ba Sing Se, they realize that Ba Sing Se and the Earth Queen didn't know anything about the 100-Year War. No, yeah. What do you mean you didn't know anything about the I wonder if they. I guess they did learn about the war after the war. But yes, yeah, so they were hired. The queen is now taking that kind of taking the role of Long Feng in the sense of she's manipulating the entire city. There's
Right.
airbenders in the city. She's doing some dirty deals and stuff with money and these not pirates but
Assassin or
rogue teams, I guess you could say, are trying to steal money from her because they feel
right.
like they are getting manipulated and taken advantage of. So, and eventually the Earth Queen is hiding airbenders, which is kind of Kai's story arc, is like why Kai
Yes.
is even in this group, is to kind of introduce that.
Mhm.
And then Zahir makes basically a truce with the Queen, saying that he will deliver the Avatar, correct?
Um, ye- no, the Earth Queen wants he wants the Earth Queen to give up the Avatar
Okay.
once she
In for what?
arrives.
For what?
The Airbenders.
Okay, gotcha. Um, yeah. So I mean, what do you think about? I know that's a lot there, but what did you think about how they handled Ba Sing Se, how they handled the Earth Queen, and the whole airbending story arc?
I thought it was pretty cool. I liked how there was an Earth Queen instead of an Earth King. It's something very different.
Hmm.
Um, and I want your opinion on this because I immediately thought of this when I saw the Earth Queen. Do you think that the Earth Queen
Eight
is
Bosco.
yes is the do you think the Earth Queen is the daughter or grand probably she's old enough to be probably the daughter I think but maybe
Hmm.
granddaughter we'll see but the daughter or granddaughter of the uh the fairy lady in Avatar.
No, it's handed down. So she's the granddaughter or daughter of the Earth King.
She looks very similar
No, she
to
doesn't.
yeah.
The other one
If you
was
come on, you
the other one was a little bit heavier. She had a big
yeah,
mole.
but you can tell by you if you looked at
More
a
likely.
side by side. I might be
I will
stretching
pull up
this a little
you
bit
might be stretching it a lot. I'll
because
pull up
they
the
have the
side by
same
side. They look no.
personality. That would also happen to be they have the same personality too. Come on.
Okay. No. She's the Earth Queen. I mean, who knows? Maybe the Earth King in that passage they hooked up once. But no, she's the granddaughter, or maybe again the daughter of the Earth King, probably granddaughter, because the Earth King looked like he was probably in his like late 30s, early 40s. So probably like in his 30s. So she's like the granddaughter or daughter of the Earth King. She even talks about how she ate that. I was kind of disrespected by that. She talked about how she ate Bosco. They mentioned that. Yeah. You didn't hear that? Yeah,
Like,
she ate Bosco. That's why I said that. She ate Bosco. I was like, when that happened, I was like, evil, but like, I don't want someone to be evil in the sense of name dropping something and then ruining something. I want it to be evil in the sense of things you do on screen, like just saying like, "Oh yeah, I'm the one that killed Momo," and you're like, "You're evil." It's like that doesn't make you evil. That just makes it like, damn, that's how Momo died,
It's
you know, or
sinister.
like, yes, it's just sinister. But it's like if that's the way, just writing wise, like you're not gonna make me think a character is necessarily bad or good by just telling me like off passing, like, oh yeah, this character killed this character. Instead, it's just almost gonna ruin what like some of my mentality of that character, if that makes any sense. Like, it's gonna ruin my mentality of the past character. And now I'm like, Bosco is kind of a fun little bear. Now we know how he died. That's kind of depressing. But it doesn't make me like, or it didn't make you feel any different about the Earth Queen because you still hated the Earth Queen without knowing that, with
Right.
missing that knowledge. So like for
I
me,
heard I heard Bosco's name come up. It was
mhm,
Port Bosco is what it was. There's a
yeah, no,
port named Bosco.
she mentions that she ate her father's or grandfather. I think it was father's. She mentioned that she ate her father's bear.
That totally went over my head.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which again, it's like it's whatever. It's just like I don't know, whatever.
My conspiracy, and I'm still going to hold on to it. My conspiracy is that she's the daughter or granddaughter of the fairy lady. So you know what, the Earth King might have had a one night stand with the fairy lady. I'm going to stick to it.
Yeah, he's like, man, I really like the transportation system. After he was within that little, like, after he was, and then he like gets out. And he's like, well, hello.
But no, I mean, I just think if you look at how they appear and their
They look no,
personality,
they look
it's like,
nothing alike.
yeah, they do
They look nothing
a
alike.
little bit.
Sorry, man, they just don't. That's like being like the mom of Lee in Zuko Alone. The mother of Lee kind of sort of looks like the girl's song, and they are both really nice to strangers.
No, that's not the same. They're completely different.
No, they're not. They're both welcoming and nice to strangers, and they feed them.
No,
They
they
literally
look
both do.
alike.
They both do the same thing to the same character. They're like, "You need food? Come on into
But
our
you're not.
house. We'll heal you. We'll give you food, and we'll have a nice chat." And it's like
They
they kind
don't
of look
look
like
alike. That's
they're
the
both
problem.
thin, brown haired women that it's like, oh,
I
okay,
will.
cool.
You know what? I'll
I'll
ask.
put side by side.
I'm going to go ahead, go side by side. I'll ask live action Sakura and live action Suki Friday, Saturday,
They probably have never
and or
seen the
Sunday.
show.
They no, they have. No, they definitely have.
If you've seen the live action Avatar That's Airbender, you would know they've never seen the show.
That's not true. But
Anyway,
I'll ask them what they think, and
that's
they're
fine.
experts since they're
They're
the
gonna
actors.
say who? Anyway, no, when we have the creators on the show
Yes,
in 2034,
and when we have
we'll ask them.
150 subscribers, they'll come on.
Yeah, yeah. Subscribe, by the way. This is the halfway point. Subscribe. Trying to get to what, we got to get to 50 before we get to 150. So let's get to 50. All right. Next,
I will say one thing
go
about
ahead.
Zahir real quick
Mm-hmm.
because it deals with when he escapes, so it's earlier on. And I I would like to see your thoughts on this too, but I got I did not like how he just suddenly knows airbending. Like he's like a master.
Yeah, they kind of explain it away by saying like, he's been meditating and
But that's
practicing it. And yeah, yeah.
there's no
No,
way.
I again, it's one of those things where just like in season episode 1, where you're like, I guess we have to deal with these people randomly getting airbender. It's like once you get past the idea, we're like, okay, he's a master at airbending because he meditated and he studied the arts for 4
Sure.
years while he was in jail. Now, could non airbenders meditate and go to the spirit world? Or is it just because at first I thought it was just the avatar, but like Janora does it. So like is
And
it
that's what I didn't like. But
right? So it's like, okay, so can anyone could Iroh could could Monkey Atsu
remember
and
Iroh
Kuru
remember Iroh had his own journey
visit
to
and
the
stuff?
spirit world.
Well, I always thought it was due to
something.
Something like him accidentally, just like how Aang accidentally went into the spirit world.
Well, they did
Like,
mention in Avatar. They did say like how you accidentally went into the spirit world.
right. So like he accidentally went to spirit world. It's just like for me, like Guru Patik or any of anyone, like, could they just meditate and go into the spirit world if they were able to? I always thought Aang was the bridge to from the Avatar state, the spirit world to the physical world.
Right.
So he was the only one. Now, I guess the counter argument to my own argument would be the portals are open. Now the
Right, but
portals are
couldn't
open.
Janora have got in anyway? Didn't she go in regardless?
No, but what I'm saying is Janora was never. I don't think Janora was able to go into the spirit world in season 2, was she?
I think so.
Oh, well, never mind. Yeah, I mean that's something I would have to ask when the
Or at
creators come
least,
on our show.
or at least she was able to like. You remember she like I don't who was it? I think
It was
she was
Janora.
no. I'm talking about like Janora was seeing when Korra was captured. She used her like spirit to like go through
Oh,
walls.
yeah, that was uh I forgot what it's called. Doctor Strange can do it. That helps. But
Telekinesis,
yes,
or like not telekinesis, but
no. Uh,
sorry, people, we're not
it's
experts.
basically just detaching her spirit from her body. There's a specific word for it.
Yeah, I did not like that. I just thought the Avatar could, like, an Avatar could do that because that's
Well,
where
really,
you
an
go.
avatar can't really even do that.
But if you're going to the spirit world, you
Projecting,
detach if you go to the spirit world, you detach your body. So I just
right,
thought
but
it
that's
was the
going
Avatar.
into. But she wasn't going into the spirit world. She was still in the physical world.
Correct.
But like as a spirit almost.
Right.
Yeah, they made it. It's a part of airbending, subbending, which
Yeah.
is being able to project yourself into a spirit and being able to do that. Janora's the only one that's learned how to do it. I think she's the
Right.
only one in the entire
Like
series that
Tenzin
learns how
can't
to
even
do it.
do it.
Right, because she's super spiritual and super spiritual charged. So again, it's a subbending thing that they created for airbenders, along with flying, which we'll get into later. But like, I agree. Her learning that and some of the powers of how they learned it and how fast they learned it. Either if it's Korra learning metal bending, or if it's Bolin learning lava bending, or her learning that, or just being able to go into the spirit world. Like, I wouldn't say it's retconning. By the way, retconning, for those who don't know, I know I had explained it a little bit over our shorts. Retconning is changing any type of fantasy law that you make, right? So you have a world, you're making laws within your world. You're making rules, boundaries within your world. Retconning is taking that back and saying, you know what, that never happened. Either if it was a boundary slash law, or if it's something a character may have done. So, for instance, Star Wars does this pretty often, is they kind of retcon what certain things were when it comes to the Force. They retcon the Force all the time. They change what the Force is pretty much all the time. So, like, I think I brought up in Avatar season 2, she lost the ability to connect with her past elements. I said, I hope they retcon that. So I hope they just say, you know what, that never happened. I would say that, going back to what I was talking about, I would say that they might be retconning some things from Avatar: Last Airbender, bringing into Korra, that now things that they explained in Avatar: Last Airbender, they're now retconning and saying, you know what, no, if you're spiritually charged, you can actually be the bridge between the spirit world and the physical world. You know, so like that might be their way of doing it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, we talked about Bolin learning lava bending. I mean, real quick, we can bring that up too.
Just plot convenience. That's all it is.
It was plot convenience. Yeah, it just seems like it was. I always just was like, if he just had a conversation when he was captured with Kazan. Remember they were like talking buddy buddy, and
Mhm.
and it was like, funny but kind of weird. It's like
Yeah,
this guy just captured you. Now, it would have been interesting for them to have a moment where he like says something to Bolin, and then Bolin remembers it, and he's just like, "How do you do
exactly.
that?
I
How do you
agree.
lava bend?" And he's like, "Man, I just think about this." And it would have been easy, a little too easy, but at least it would have been explained and not plot convenience. He could have simply said, "Man, my mom died when I was a child, and I just have to pull that out into an emotional, some type of
Right.
emotional connection with her." And then Bolin, after seeing his family, does the same thing. It's like something to connect. Why are we now able to lava bend? Just because you want to?
Well, my quick question: lava bending, is it both fire and earth? Like, can both
It's
of them?
Earth. It's just
Is it
Earth.
only earth?
Yeah, it's essentially making the earth hot enough, like rubbing the earth together to make it hot enough, so then it combusts into fire. So like a firebender can't do it. Only earthbenders can do it.
Okay, I
You're
thought it was
breaking down the earth. Yeah, you're breaking down the earth to make it into magma, essentially.
got it.
Right. So,
Cool. Yeah.
um,
Um,
yeah. So I mean, like again, a lot of good things in season three, so far, like what we're talking about. But there's a lot of plot convenience stuff. There's a lot of saying, yeah, things that you knew about avatars. Not we're just gonna kind of change some things, or at least evolve some things of how we explained them before. Um, so before we kind of get to the later part of the season, Bolin, when he's at the Metal Clan, does meet Opal, another new character.
yep.
Um, I mean, I've talked about it before in other reviews. I've hated this show's love triangles, not being straightforward. I mean, Avatar: Last Airbender was always pretty good when it came to like making it more crushes and then evolving it into relationships, but we really never got to see like a full blown relationship until the last like season. Like we saw May and Zuko together for all 5 episodes, and then we see Suki and Sokka together for all of 5 episodes.
Right.
But so we really don't get to experience that. But whenever they do like Lover One, Lover Two together, like there's no other thing going on. They do a pretty good job. So I think they do a good job with Opal, her character and her relationship with Bolin.
Yeah, I think they're a great fit. Um, Not that it matters since it's an animation, but but like in terms of personality, yeah. Um, you know, like Bolin like tries to be like the season one soccer approach to her, trying to being like, I know you like me, like, and I like you, and then
Hmm.
Opal's like, Bolin, like, be yourself, and like
Yeah,
I was like,
forgot
that's why I
about that.
liked you to begin with, and
Hmm.
it was very refreshing to hear
Yeah,
that. Just like having a good relationship moment for once between
like a healthy relationship.
a healthy relationship. No red
They have
flags.
no red flags, no weird like love triangles. Like Opal and Bolin may be the first Avatar healthy relationship besides Katara Aang. But we don't
Yeah,
really get to see that relationship that we get
no,
to see it literally the last scene ever of Avatar is that being in a relationship.
right.
So it's the first time we've seen like a really healthy relationship between two characters. The entire show of Avatar Last Airbender, which is
Mm,
nice. It's a nice change of pace. And I
right.
like Opal too.
Yeah. And it's funny how she's an airbender. Like, so
And she's an
apparently,
airbender. Well, that was the reason why they went there, is because
right.
they knew, yeah,
But it
they
was
knew
kind
she
of
was an airbender.
funny. It was kind of funny, like in the sense of like so before the convergence, she wasn't a bender.
Mm-mm.
So, but now she got bent.
Um,
So the convergence was like a blessing and a curse at the same time.
mhm. Yeah, yeah. I mean, however you want to look at it, like that's why they even say like because Korra did the convergence and open the portals, airbenders are back, and they gave Tenzin gives the kudos to that to Korra. So, um, so going through the plot here, I know we're all over the place with characters, but going through the plot now more. Um, so Queen is now chasing down Korra.
Hmm.
They're in the desert. They go to the Misty Palms. Um, there's that whole sequence in the spirit world with Amon, or not Amon, Zahir. I always say Amon. Zahir. Um,
Well, do we want to talk about the um the episode or two before that, when she's chasing, before the Earth Queen is chasing Korra and all of them? Do you remember?
oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. So when they're in the metal clan, right?
Yeah,
Yeah. So they get. Sorry, completely forgot about that. So they get attacked. And this is
I
where you
for
see.
Iway, because Iway.
Yeah, yeah. So I way to the highway. So he is the advisor, which is interesting. He's the only one that can feel vibrations that people are lying, even though that felt like that was just if you're a metal bender, you can do that because you're able to feel the vibrations of Earth. So different again, kind of not I wouldn't say retconning, but explaining different things. But yeah, so Iway's a trader. I think this is the first time you see the Red Lotus fighting the main core Team Avatar. What do you think about that whole sequence? Everything.
Very, very cool.
Yeah.
I really, I, it was just like an interrogation. That was my feeling. The whole thing of, I mean, they were
Well,
interrogating everybody. To be
well,
fair,
but even the fight.
right?
I mean, the fight was awesome.
I don't remember the fight, but
Where
I'm
they're in the
joking. I'm
circle. Oh,
joking. Did you see
yeah, we
your
watched it.
face
I
when
was like, what?
um, but yeah, like it was just mind-boggling. Like when they went to Iway
Mhm.
and like Bolin was like, "Oh, look at this little thing," and Maki was like, "Do not touch anything. Do you want Iway to see that we were here?" And he's like, "No," and then he like puts it back at a random spot. But then when Iway comes back, they they act like they're caught, whatever, and they try to give him the update about like who they think it is, or who ratted them out to Zahir, and
Mhm.
having them come in through like a secret passageway or whatnot. I loved how they clipped it to him moving that vase back to where it was supposed to be. He did that. Because like he knew by then that they were snooping around, because he grabbed
So they saw that. I don't remember that part. So they
the
saw the
vase was
vase
in the
move,
wrong spot, and he
moved it
back to
back,
where.
so they knew that he knew that they were snooping around.
No, he knew that they were snooping,
Oh, oh,
like more so than they
yeah,
were letting on.
gotcha. Okay,
Yeah, I thought, I
okay,
was like, oh my gosh, this is a great interrogation technique. And then
yeah.
and then they say that they find, Iway like kind of admits it by like
Hmm.
saying,
Oh yeah, he does. Yeah,
yeah, and then like
you're going down, Avatar.
he
He pretty much admits it.
then like he shuts it down, and then Korra's using metal bending for the first time, like a lot, in a real
Hmm.
stressful situation, and she opens it up, and then I think Bolin was like, "Can't you go any faster?" She was like, "I just learned this. Like, what do you think I can do?" And like
Yeah.
she finally gets it open, and they go down that stairwell, and then
Mhm.
it's a freaking bomb. Like
Yeah, that's
I was
yeah.
mind blown. I was like,
Yeah. You're mind
like
bending.
I actually thought they're dead. Like I thought like Zahir
She used
wins.
airbender to get away from it, right? She was
Right.
using the
Yeah.
airbender
Yeah.
or airbending.
But like
Yeah.
it was so slick, and it was one of my favorite scenes in the whole show. Like one of them. It was probably
Yeah, I mean, you can make an
it was top
argument
five.
if Korra wasn't there, maybe Bolin or not Bolin,
Yeah.
Mako, but if it was just like a Sami, like she would have been dead easily.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, no, that episode, the whole arc of like, I should probably pull up the episodes, but there's an arc in season 3, probably should have pulled this up earlier, so I do apologize.
Also,
So
wow.
real quickly,
Okay.
I was well, I was gonna say real quickly, the arc of episode 5, 6, maybe not 5, but like 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. Like, to be honest, even the rest of the season, like the season really picks up after the first 5 episodes. Like once we get to the Metal Clan, and you have the backstory is cool, but then
Right.
it's like, man, they attack,
Hmm.
and you learn more about airbending, and you have the interrogation stuff, and then eventually we'll get to this, but the stakeout, the stakeout was a good episode, and the queen dying. I mean, all of this is just, it
Right.
gets super good.
I agree. You're speaking to the choir. Come on.
What were you gonna say before we move on?
Another great scene that I liked, and I believe this happened before. Yeah, it definitely happened before Highway. Is I believe it was like episode 5, probably maybe, or maybe like 4 or 5. Um, is when Zahir um acts like he is a lost airbender and goes to the temple.
Oh yes, that's
I
early on. I think that's episode
Yeah,
like 3.
3
But
or 4,
yes, yeah,
whatever early episode it was. I just wish they had that longer. I wish there
the
was a
scene was longer.
I would yes. I wish he could have acted that out longer. They like
Yeah,
the
that was good.
I wish they could have like dragged that out for another episode or
Hmm.
something.
And it makes you
And
think,
like
like, if he
when
was a
what is
good
it?
guy, like he could have
Right.
really helped.
And
He could have
then
probably led an
Icky,
entire.
who was it? Icky that came out of bed and like um saw Zahir like
Hmm.
in Tenzin's like Tenzin's room, is like meditating room.
Yeah,
And like I was like,
yeah, and
oh
then
my
Kaya
god, he
Kaya
got
shows
caught,
up.
and like he could have like ended her life, but he didn't.
Yeah,
I
but that's not what he's trying to do.
No, but
Yeah,
like you were like, oh no, what's gonna happen here? And
right.
then Kaya comes in and just like she kind of saves the day, but she realizes later, like, huh, why is he interested in this Guru Lakma, whatever his name is? And here she just says, oh, Zahir. And then like they have
Yeah,
that fight. That was a great scene.
yeah. The scene was really good. It was a good way for him to explain. He's like, like instead of explaining to the audience, if you gotta have to explain something to the audience, do it in a way where you're explaining to a character so the audience learns. So like
Right.
he's explaining everything that he knows, and why he knows, and how he knows to Kaya. Kaya gets to show off her ability a little bit, that she looks like she can hold her own. She gets her ass. I mean, she loses, but she still kind of holds her own.
She
So
calls
yeah,
for
that was
help and no one comes for help. I didn't like that. She calls for
well.
help and no one shows up.
No. A couple guards show up. He just kicks
But
the shit out of them.
it was later. It was like not every.
Yeah,
What
yeah,
I'm saying is like the
yeah,
people, the airbenders in the temple did not help. Is what I'm trying to say. Like
yeah. They showed up. Well, I mean, it kind of confirms what Zero is right about, right? He's like the White Lotus members are just bodyguards. Like they're not even good benders anymore. Like they show up and just get destroyed. Like when
yeah,
you think of the White Lotus, you think of the best benders that come together, that are almost like their own group to make sure that there's peace. And now they're just bodyguards. Like they're just kind of like, nameless soldiers that get hit in one move and they fall away and they don't come back. Like that's what they kind of are. That's what he even says. Like he's like, they're nothing now. They're stormtroopers.
right,
So
right.
a Star Wars reference. Um, yeah. So I think the stakeout is probably the stakeout, and maybe like is where it really gets good. Um, or maybe the episode before that where she gets attacked in the Metal Clan, but like them staking out, her talking to Zahir, um, in the spirit world. I have always liked when villains, before the big fight, a villain and a hero are talking, but they can't fight for some reason, or they don't fight for some reason. And this was a perfect example of like they're in the spirit world, they can't fight, but they can talk. So they're having this conversation before the big battle,
Yeah,
and ideologies are meeting, and they're learning things about each other. But the whole time Zahir's doing it to buy time because he's able to communicate to his friends or the Red Lotus where they are to get Korra.
Right.
I thought that was done really well. Um, even like the location on the map, we can't find the location on the map. That's because it's a location in the spirit world. Like that, that whole episode was just like brilliant to me,
Right.
and it really showed how smart he is as a character.
Yeah. Again, it's just like whether or not I like overall agree with it, like the concept of like him knowing all this stuff as an airbender,
Mm,
like early on, no matter
right,
you can have years of meditation, you're not an
right.
airbender just because you do that. Like,
Well, again, it goes back to the argument of did they retcon the series by saying you don't have to be the Avatar or even an Airbender to be able to meditate and go to the spirit world? Because he could have been in jail for 30 years and been in the spirit world the whole time.
yeah,
You know what I mean? Like that's something that it seems like the show was like Avatar is the bridge to the spirit world. Let's pull it back. Maybe it's just Airbenders, because Janora is able to go there. So it's
right,
like maybe you just have to be very spiritually charged. So maybe you don't even have to be an Airbender. You just have like
right.
maybe again Guru Patik might have been able to do it. So like
But we don't know. So
we don't
like,
know. We don't know. But like that's something that like I guess the way around that is well maybe he was able to learn all that stuff because and knew all that stuff because he was so spiritual he was able to meditate and learn and go to the spirit world. I don't know.
I just don't like making
Iroh was.
inferences. I need
Iroh
things
got in there.
explained.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a lot of assumptions with his abilities and powers and how good he was at certain
Right.
things,
So,
which
but like
I would agree.
objectively, like without thinking like that, yes, great wisdom, great
Mhm.
villain, very smart, very wise, very methodical. Um,
That's less of the villain's fault and more of the writing's fault, right?
yeah, yeah,
You know what I mean? Like obviously, it's all connected. It's all the same show. But like, I'm not gonna blame. It's like saying I don't blame the actor. I blame the writing for that scene. It's like I
right.
don't blame that character, and that doesn't hurt the character. That hurts the continuity of the show and the world that they created. Um,
Unless we're talking about the
between
live action.
yes, so between Korra and Avatar: Last Airbender, there's some continuity meshes, but other things you can kind of write off. Like, I mean, there's a lot of things you can write off and be like, well, maybe they meant it that way. Like, when they talk about how the masters of all the elements are these animals. And it's like, well, no, it's the lion turtle. It's like, well, they taught them, and they already had the bending, but they made them into a master. The animals were the things that helped them become a master, not gave them the bending. So that's how I always took it. So like, they kind of again, I wouldn't retcon it. They didn't retcon it, but they like kind of changed their meaning behind it. So maybe they changed their meaning behind this too, or maybe they said, "Yeah, deal with it. You gotta deal with it." So
I will say that the fight sequences in this season were the best.
very good,
We're
very good.
one of the best I've ever.
Korra does really good. I mean, Avatar: Last Airbender starts like because it's not as extreme. It's like you have an Airbender who's just learning a little bit of every element. Katara can barely waterbend. She's kind of getting better by season 2. Like, oh, lightning bending. It's like there's just more extreme in this where you're like, oh, multiple bloodbenders,
Right.
multiple lightning benders, multiple of all these different things. So it makes the fighting better, and then obviously the animation's way more crisp. So, yeah, they now that this is all done, they split up. Korra and Asami go on their little adventure, meet their pirates. It is kind of cool at the end of the episode where she thinks she gets caught, and they're like, "No, this is not. This is not. This is the Earth Queen's forces, not Zahir." Um,
Good thing it was
but
them rather than Zahir, to be honest.
right, right. But we're gonna fast forward a little bit and go right to the death of the Earth Queen.
Yeah, that was dark. I thought that was a really dark scene. I was like, oh, they're doing this. Like I was like,
Uh,
wow, what I was like, what a way to go.
yeah, in a show that in a show that allowed slash we as an audience saw a homicide and suicide happen at the same time. this murder was still
Mm.
the darkest murder, right? Like it's like
It
I
was
put this I put Zahir murdering Earth Queen higher on the darkest type of murders in the show of Avatar. That I mean, like we've seen, like okay, Long Fang killing Jet.
right.
That's pretty much all we got in Avatar: Last Airbender. You can make an argument, Zhao dying from the spirit world or spirit
Sure.
monster. You know, um, you can Aang kill. Oh, never mind. Uh, but no, and then you see a couple deaths so far, but like this is by far the darkest of them all, and I would say it's darker than a homicide, a suicide. Like what happens at the end of season one. So like, it's dark.
I would disagree actually a little bit. They're both similar, but I have to give the edge to Jets. But that's worse.
You hit him with a
I,
rock.
because here's the thing.
You hit him with a rock. How's that dark? How is that dark? I mean, I know it's a child.
Because it was the first time if you were watching it for the first time, that's the first time that you actually like, oh, boom, he gone.
Yeah, but you can even walk out of it. I mean, they even made a joke at it, being like, "Did they actually kill him? I think they did."
Yes, because Toph
I
goes,
wouldn't say.
he's
I wouldn't say
he's
that.
lying. No,
I
it
wouldn't say
was.
that was the dark. I mean, if you think it is, I don't think a first has to be the
Or
darkest.
let
I
me put
would
it this
say
way.
the
I think
darkest is the darkest.
I felt that more than
Okay,
this one.
I agree
Whether or
with
not,
that because you cared about Jet. Yeah,
not that I necessarily care about Jet. It's just that he was a kid.
that's what I'm saying. Yeah, I mean, if you take the
Where the
kid
Earthquake's
part
already
out
in
of
her
it,
60s, and
yeah, it's just no. I
no,
just
but
thought this was dark. I mean, just taking someone's air out of their
no,
lungs
I
and killing them and
right.
suffocating them is dark as fuck.
I'm not saying that it isn't. I'm just saying that I felt more for Jet, and it's
I
not
got
because I
you.
necessarily liked him, but I think it's because of like how young he was, and like
It's like if a kid
it
says
was a
shit
surprise.
or a guy says fuck, which one's worse? It's like, oh, shit's not that bad of a word, but man, he's sick saying that. Where it's like,
Yeah.
this guy just screamed the c word in the front of the mall.
We're over an hour in. This is why we're laughing.
All right. Anyway,
No, no, in terms of like, in terms, in terms of like creativity,
yeah,
creative dark.
yes,
That was the darkest one of it tops Jets. Yes,
okay, okay.
that was a
Whew, all
five
right,
minute thing about.
that's funny. That was funny. Well, okay, so let's just get right to the, I guess, right to the finale for the most part. Unless there's anything else to talk about.
Well,
That
how'd you like
last three
them?
episodes.
Well, how'd you like them fixing up the airship? Like with.
Whatever.
All right, we'll go to the ending.
I mean, if you were to talk about it, but I'm like, I mean, yeah, I mean, I thought that shark thing was cool. Like, where did that come from? Why did
I
that not
immediately
pop up in Aang's adventure?
I immediately thought Dune. That was Dune.
Yeah, yeah. But that was an interesting, like, did those things not exist when Aang was in the desert walking around looking for Appa? Maybe they just didn't care. Like, imagine if that thing just swallowed them all whole. Appa!
We can't find Appa.
Yeah. Appa comes back and just sees a dead Aang's head on the ground. Um, yeah, so I mean, the finale, ultimatum, those three episodes, him essentially saying, I'm gonna kill the Airbenders unless you give yourself up.
Right.
She gives herself up with kind of the idea that there's gonna be a backup plan. Obviously, both teams had backup plans of what, like, they were both going to double cross each other. It's just
Mm-hmm.
who was gonna double cross each other better. So I mean, I will say I really like. I think Tenzin's one of my favorite characters, and
Yeah.
like this is probably my favorite Tenzin moment when he's like, "You have to give up the Airbenders. You don't have a choice," and he's like, just such a badass moment where he's just like, Yeah, it's like him and all him and the entire Red Lotus are like, gotta give up the airbenders. You don't have a choice. But he's like, yes, I do. Just beats the shit out of all of them. You're like, let's go, Tenzin. And he just like takes it. He's like, it's a 3-on-3 fight with his family, brother and sister. I mean,
Yep.
that's like peak Tenzin badassness. Such a like shift of what he was in season 1 too.
True.
And that's what I was saying. Like by the end of this season, you were like, they've made every character like as good as they could possibly make them. So you're so pumped for season 4 because
Yep.
every one of these characters should have like just badass moments.
Yep.
Yeah. So that's like my favorite Tenzin scene is when he says, you don't have a choice, and
Right. And he's
Tenzin's like,
like,
yes,
"Well,
I
try to
do, and
stop me."
fights back. Yeah, yeah, and then eventually gets his butt kicked and
Right.
loses and almost dies from it, but
Right.
him being able to make that fight happen allowed them to get away. Now the fight between Zahir and Pili is her name?
Hi, Peli. Peli.
Pili, yeah. Them two fighting. Um, it's essentially Pili, I believe. Pili versus Lin and Sue, and then
Yeah.
Zahir versus Korra and her father.
Yeah.
So it's like a 2-on-1 fight, but then there's two of them going on, but they're all kind of together in the same area.
Mm-hmm.
How do you like all that? Because that
I
is awesome. I loved all of it.
Yeah. Like I said, it was one of the best fighting sequences I've ever seen. In terms of like all of Avatar.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it was with Sue and Lin fighting, and like Lin's like, "I'm going to sacrifice myself so that you can get the shot that you need, Sue," and like
Mm-hmm.
they do that, and then like Lin gets hit and falls back near the edge of the cliff, and then Su Yin like throws like a metal clasp onto Pili's head
That
right
was a
as
dark death too.
right as she was about to, and then
Yeah.
that was also dark, and all
Mm-hmm.
you see is really the smoke from it, and I'm just like, wow.
Yeah.
And like you see like Zahir felt for, because that was his girlfriend, but
Mm-hmm.
like you see like him having like some sense of emotion towards it, which was like, as an audience member, I kind of felt it a little bit, even though they barely showed their relationship, but they,
Mm-hmm.
you know, it was just a touchy feely moment, and um, like he's without one of his core members,
Well,
and
that explained also why he was able to fly. Because you can't fly if you have detachments to the world. And his detachment was her, so when she died, that allowed him to fly.
right, which
What did you
I
think of
don't
that?
know if I buy that.
No, I mean that is what
No, I
they
don't.
set
What I'm
they
saying
set
is
that
like,
up. They set up the
well,
idea that you can only fly if you're not detached to the
no,
world, much like how Guru, you don't buy it, you don't like
Drew
that.
Lockma,
You don't, well, I was going to tell you, what's his name was talking about to Aang. You don't like the fact that he was able to fly.
correct.
I'm okay with it.
Well, this is when we end the podcast.
I'm okay with it because it's a sub bending that only very little, like, again, when you're talking
But
about the
it's
bendings.
here again. It revolves around like, how much can this guy really do? Like it just goes. They keep adding one thing after another, and when you do that, I don't like that.
Well, the way
It
they
just doesn't make
explained
sense.
it, though, the way they explained it was because they do show in the season 2 airbenders flying, right? An explanation for why airbenders over the years stopped being able to fly. They don't have parents, they don't have loved ones. How they explained that airbenders were no longer able to fly is because they had relationships with bison. So once they had relationships with bison, they no longer now had something to attach themselves to the earth. So that over the years made airbenders no longer able to fly. So it's not necessarily about skill set, or ability. It's about being able to detach yourself to the world, being able to say, "There's nothing makes me tethered to this world." So someone that has been in jail for 30 years that has not had anything in his life besides wanting to see his girlfriend again, and then he's with his girlfriend and then she dies. There's nothing, literally there's nothing, for no reason for him to even be around anymore. So I mean, I guess you can say the argument would be his agenda, but that's less of like something that's tethering him to the world and more of just an agenda. So like a goal. So that is, for me, that is how I would explain that.
What about Gyatso? Did he like Bison too? He seemed to be a hands
He
off
couldn't
guy.
he couldn't Aang. He obviously cared about Aang.
Okay, well,
Yeah,
if that
and they
if
all
that okay,
they talked about every Airbender has a bison. Like they explained that in the flashback. I forgot. I think it's Appa
right.
Lost Days.
Everyone,
It's like
yeah, it's
every
everyone at
Airbender.
a certain age gets a Bison.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Yeah. So everyone has a bison. So if everyone has a bison, everyone kind of has loved ones around them and friends around them, like the airnet. Like he didn't have anyone. He didn't have friends. I mean, I guess he had his
if
crew,
it's
but that was
okay,
less. I mean, that's how I would explain it. Like
it,
you're talking about a
it
man that's
makes
been in
sense.
jail, no
Just
friends, nothing that attaches you besides a girl. That girl dies in front of you. Nothing attaches you to the world anymore. You're already an airbender. Now you can fly.
if it's only about attachment from the world, then I'll grow into believing that. I'll I'll have myself grow.
It's like I guess it's I don't know too much about Star Wars. I'm bringing back Star Wars a
I mean, I
lot. But it's
might.
kind of like the sense of the Force. It's like you don't you don't really train for it. It's like once you
Do you
learn
train
it,
for the
you kind
Force?
of, yeah. But do you?
Yes,
Do you? I
yes.
mean,
Obi-Wan teaches Luke in Episode 4, like to trust in the Force and like train and yeah. It's same with Yoda in
I
Episode
mean,
5.
again, another thing they kind of retcon a little bit, right? Because Ray didn't train that much to learn about the Force. Like you see people left and right using the Force and the
We don't
strength of the
we
Force,
don't talk about the 7, 8, and 9 that doesn't exist. We don't talk about that.
right? Right. So we can agree to disagree on how the Force works, but I will say that it is one of those things where you don't necessarily train for it. You just know it based off of circumstances, and once you know it, you can do it. It's like riding a bike.
Sure. Except I forgot how to ride a bike.
Of course you did. All right. So Korra versus Zahir, great fight sequence.
Yes.
Eventually, Tarlok, that's her father.
Harlock, yep.
Tarlok falls off a cliff.
Yeah.
He is saved by
A random guard.
Kavira.
Oh, was that her?
Yep, she's the villain of season 4.
No, I mean I know she's
That's
like, "Hi,
Kavira.
I'm Kavira," like when I didn't know like
Mm-hmm.
she initially saved him.
Yeah, she's the one that saves him.
Okay. Because I remember like her
So
introducing her.
she's in an earlier episode too when they're like Kavira, and she's like, yes. I kind of wish they made her into a little bit more of a main character, to be honest.
Right. But I just remember when
It
they
would have
get
been cool if she. Yeah.
I just remember her introducing herself whenever they get over the like on top of the
Mm-hmm.
cliff like after the climb. Um
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
and then like and then Su Yin was like, or Kavir was like, yeah, like, can I go with you, Sue? Or she probably says like my liege or something. But
Leader Sue.
leader Sue. Um, but she was like, no, like I want you to stay with the injured. And I'm like, so it's just like a resentment villain. Got it. Okay.
Nah.
It's
Let's
resentment
see.
villain. It's resentment villain.
Nah.
But yeah, like I
I
knew
mean,
who
that's how
Kavira
I guess
was.
they say it. Yeah.
I knew who Kavira was like after the introduction. I was like, oh well, there's the introduction to her.
Okay.
And then I remember like as my second rewatch, I do remember the poison scene a little bit.
Yeah. So yeah, we'll just jump right to that. So she's captured. She wakes up. They just now, episode 12, second last episode, kind of tell her the plan, what they actually want to do to her. They want to put her into the Avatar state through poison and then kill her as soon as she's in the Avatar state, which would end the cycle. Something that they hid from the series. Like the entire series, you knew that they wanted to capture her for something, and you just don't know why. Essentially, probably to kill her. But you're like, what's going on here?
Quick question, real quick.
Mm-hmm.
The poison, is it an automatic, like you die from it, like automatically?
She wasn't
No,
dying from the poison.
it just so the poison just had her be in the Avatar state.
I'm assuming the poison is something that slowly, very much injures you, or maybe kills you, and the defensive mechanism of the Avatar state turned on due to that, to
Okay.
fight the poison, because that's what the
So,
Avatar state really is. It's supposed to be a defense mechanism to be used.
okay,
So
because
so
my
the
my
Avatar
thinking
state
of
turned on. Mhm.
okay, so because my thinking of when that happened was like, huh, I bet General Fong wish he had that.
Yeah, but I think that was more injuring her. Like that was
That's what I'm
the
saying. I
poison
didn't
was
know.
killing her. Yeah, the
Okay,
because remember she was going to die from the poison, but Sue took the majority
correct.
of it out. Yeah.
Right,
So and by doing that, it saved her.
correct. Okay.
Yeah. So the majority of it out. Ooh, spoiler alert.
Yeah.
Um.
Lira.
No. Yeah. So that's a great fight sequence. It's very paralleled the finale of season 3 of Avatar:
Mhm.
Last Airbender. This time you have the Avatar, more of the attacker, and the Airbender running away for a lot of it. But yeah, Zahira versus um, Korra was a really good fight sequence. I feel like they used camera work. Weird to say for an animated series, but they used the camera work a lot for that,
He's very good.
which looked really good. Really good fight sequence. I wouldn't say it was the best of the show ever. I still think maybe the finale of Avatar: Last Airbender is the best fight sequence we ever seen from Avatar. It's up there. There's a couple. There's a couple of them. This one's definitely like top 3, and we'll do a list. But yeah. So it will we'll talk about that later. But that's definitely up there. Once you're done, Cora, we'll do a list. Maybe
Sure.
episode 20. Episode 20. Um. So fight sequence happens. Airbenders all come together to help Korra defeat him, which is I think a cool kind of, I wouldn't say callback, but it's a cool like way of being like the Airbenders are now together as one. Tenzin's entire like duty he felt was to bring back the Airbenders. Now he gets to see the Airbenders save the day. And
Yep.
and he wasn't even part of it. He was seeing it from afar. So that was like kind of because he was injured. So that was like kind of a cool thing. It made Janora finally become the leader that she wanted to be, which we'll get to in a second.
Right.
As Zahira loses, and yeah, she's saved. She's handicapped.
She's
Wheelchair.
FDR. She's
What is it?
FDR.
FDR.
She's FDR. She's in a wheelchair.
What's FDR?
Franklin D. Roosevelt.
Oh my god! I was thinking of like
don't go Stephen Hawking. Don't go Stephen Hawking.
I was thinking it was like an acronym or something, or like
It is an acronym.
It is an acronym. I was thinking like TBH or something. Like I was like rolling. I was like it was like downhill rolling. CTHR. CHR and CHR. She's downhill rolling. Oh my god, see that girl in the handicap? Oh yeah, what about her? DHR? What's that? Downhill rolling? That's so messed up, man. Oh yeah, but she's DHL. She's DHR now.
Downhill rolling. Uh,
That is so messed up.
it is.
Oh. But anyway, yeah.
One,
So go ahead.
I was gonna say the one thing, and this is like going back a little bit, but when they Zahir's group, Zahir, Pile, or
Mm-hmm.
Pile and Kazan and Ming
Yeah.
Wei,
The Red
when
Lotus. That's what you can say.
the
Yeah.
Red Lotus. I'm just trying to be methodical and
Right.
knowledgeable. When they take down the air temple with all that
Mm.
lava, I was like, Korra, Tenzin, everybody else associated with the good team, kick their ass.
Yeah, I don't know if that was just one of the temples or if that was the entire temple. Like, there's
I
multiple
think it was the
temples
entire
in
temple.
each.
I looked a
Yeah.
good. I mean, and I'm
What
pretty
was
sure
that? What was that? The southern? Was that the southern?
I thought that was the northern one.
Maybe you're right. But again, it's like each temple seems like it has multiple temples within.
True.
Like the
Yeah.
southern air temple is multiple temples. They just call it the one temple, but it's like
Right.
8 different temples around each other, all kind of like in a mountainy range. Like you can see from afar, they like it's multiple temples.
Right.
Yeah, I don't know what temple that was because that looked like I don't remember the northern one was like on a huge mountain. I don't
Yes.
know.
I mean, so
I
was
don't
the
remember
southern
the.
one. The southern one was too.
Yeah, yeah. Maybe it was the eastern. Eastern.
No, it wasn't the eastern one.
No, I don't
It was
know.
either
Okay.
north or south. It was either north or south.
Yeah. Um. So yeah. And real quickly, I want to just add that Bolin's fight and Maku's fight were both pretty good. They both kind of
Yes.
used strategy to beat their opponent, um, opposed to like anything else. Mako, that was probably one of the better, if not the best Mako moment
Hmm.
because he like used his wit and like that was a pretty good way he beat her.
Yeah. I actually
Um,
laughed a little bit when like Gazan was like, if I'm going down, I'm taking you with me. And then he's like,
yeah,
bends all this. And then all Bolin goes is like, Mako, come here. Just goes up the
yeah, yeah.
hill.
He's just like, it's like, yeah, yeah. That's the second suicide in Legends of Korra Nickelodeon show. Like,
Yeah.
how many suicides are in this show? Um, yeah, just still. Um, so yeah, so the finale ends. So here's defeated by Korra slash the Airbenders. Janora is now getting her tattoos to become a master bender. Shows Korra in a wheelchair. Kind of a sad, kind of a bittersweet moment.
Hmm.
It's like happy ending for Janora and for the Airbenders and for the world. But then it's like the last minute you see her tearing up. You see Korra tearing up.
Yeah.
And I think when like Korra tears up, it's like you kind of take a look back at like where she started as this badass that didn't really care what anyone thought, and she was kind of like very. Not only was she ignorant to like her to the world around her because she was so like secluded, but also like ignorant to like her own being, like her own self like awareness.
Hmm.
I would say, it's like she thought she was undefeated, like unbeatable. She thought she was just like the most powerful thing in the world. She's the Avatar, and I think that's like the end of this season shows that like she realizes she is not as like she's in a wheelchair now, like, and she like has gone through it, and you will see that in season 4 where she is like no longer the Avatar she was.
Right.
Um, so I mean, were you emotional at the end of the season? I think this might be the first time I was like emotional in this series when I was like, wow, like sad ending.
Um, Technically, the first time for me was when, what's his name? Not Unalaq, but, um, like Amon's brother.
Tarlock or a lot of locks. Lock and yeah, I got you.
Yeah, Amon's brother. Um,
Amon, Amon's brother.
yeah.
Yeah, I know you're talking about.
Um,
Warlock. Something like that.
yeah, whatever. Not important. It's just Korra. And so,
Side villain of season 1 of Korra, not like the most important thing that there is in that.
but no, I mean, just when he was telling his story about how him and Amon grew up was
Mm,
probably the first time I was emotional, and then
really.
it was this one for
Speaking
me.
of emotional, really quick. Speaking of emotional, we forgot to talk about this. I don't know why I said speaking of emotional because it's not emotional at all. But we see Zhao again in this
Was it
beautiful
this
world. Isn't
season?
that
That was
season
last
two?
season.
Is that season two?
That was season 2. I thought.
I think we forgot to talk about that. Yeah, it was season 2. Yeah. Never mind. Cut that out.
Cut that out.
Editor that I'm not hiring, so I'm just talking to myself. Me.
Yeah.
Cut that out later. I'm not gonna cut
But,
it out.
but yeah, it was a very emotional season. Very. It had it had everything. It had happiness, sadness, excited, like edge of your seat. It had a lot of emotions, and it was very good. And I remember in the episode where Tenzin was like teaching the airbend, trying to teach the airbenders, and they were like, "Oh, Tenzin's such a hard ass,"
Mhm.
and like Janora was like, I want to be a master and be have my airbending tattoos," and Tenzin's like, "You're too young, like only your grandfather had them when he was like 12 or something like that." And then just seeing her at the end of the season,
Mhm.
she she, she looks very like Aang.
Oh yeah, on the internet and stuff, there's always like pictures of her and Angel
Yeah,
kind of side by side. It is. I think they solved it in this episode, but Tenzin was a hard ass about everyone getting shaving their head,
yeah,
and then one of the kids that was forced to shave his head was able to maneuver and airbend properly because his head was shaved. He was like, "Wow, it actually worked," and then everyone was just like, "Oh, I should do it too."
hmm
And like Tenzin, like you could see throughout this season that like Tenzin's becoming and they talk about at the end of, in season 2 where like he is trying to live up to his father's legacy, and his father was like, "You need to be yourself." And this season, you could see that he is starting to realize like maybe I'm not a spiritual guide for Korra. I can be is a guide for this new era of benders, and you could just see like the proud, not only proud of the airbenders, but almost like proud of himself. Like it's happening. Like almost like a weight lifted off of his shoulder. Like he's seeing all these benders, they're all getting bald. They all want to be bald and want to be there. He's seeing a couple people being masters. And he's like, you can almost tell he's just like, I did it.
yeah.
Like I did it. Korra helped. And he even says like, there would be no airbenders without Korra. Giving her the kudos. Like all that is like proud moments. Like almost just like finally doing like accomplishing something you've wanted to accomplish your entire life and having the weight of your shoulders. And then he's like, you can kind of just tell like as the season's going on, he's starting to realize like, we made it, we did
I
it.
couldn't agree more. I
And
couldn't
that's
agree more.
why when Zahir threatens it all, he's like,
Oh hell no!
oh no, like oh, there's something I can do about it.
Right.
like you have no choice. Oh, I have a choice. My choice is to kick your butt, and if I die, I will die.
Yep.
um,
Yeah, oh,
yeah.
what was
So
the just like real quick,
mhm.
um like one of my favorite quotes was him
Oh, so many of them.
saying, "Huh?
So many
As
of them.
long as I'm breathing, uh,
Mm,
it's not over."
yeah, yeah. With Tenzin, yeah.
Yeah, that was like I was like, yes,
Zahir drops like 6 or 7, like one, like 6 or 7, like quotes that are like I wouldn't say Iroh esque, but like they're up there and like great quotes.
yeah,
Even like the line where the Earth Queen's like, "How dare you say that to your queen?" And he's like, "I forgot to tell you, I don't believe in queens," and then kills
yeah,
her. You're like,
yep,
"Oh my
yep.
gosh!" You're like, just that drop is just like, let's go. Um, yeah,
Oh,
I mean, there's a bunch of them that Zahir has. In season 3.
one thing that I didn't like, and I mean, it was a good show, maybe, but a show of like respect. I did not like the president being there, like being at the welcome
Oh, you
party.
think? I mean, you'd think he would be though. They would do it. I mean,
but I got a sour taste in my mouth. Like I was like,
at least he
oh,
apologizes to her. Doesn't he go up to Korra and is like, "Look, I know we've had our
it
beef
seemed
in the past."
half-assed. It seemed very
Yeah,
half-assed.
but he's like, I know we've had our beef in the past, but like, thank you for what you did, and like, blah blah blah. So whatever. I don't really care too much about that.
What if you don't care about it?
No, I just like
Look at him, everyone. He's kicking back. It's only an hour and a half in. He thinks we're
the
about over.
president's
We're
the
going to be going an
president.
hour
I mean,
longer.
who cares about the president, really? Or, I mean,
I care about the president because Korra just got FDR'd.
what did we say? DHR, DHR,
DHR.
downhill rolling.
Downhill.
Well, what did you grade it? Let's go out of 5. Where did you
Out of
grade?
5.
So just to kind of reminder, you graded season 1 a 3.5.
3 point. Ooh, what was that? I think
It
it
was
was 3.
around
It
3.
was either 3.25 or 3.5.
Uh-huh. And then season 1 you gave like a 1.5 or something.
You mean 2?
Season 2, sorry.
No, season 2 I gave like a 2.75.
Did you? Okay, maybe it was me that. Yeah, I think season 1 I think I gave like a 3.75, and then season 2 I gave like maybe a 2.
Okay.
So where would he be in here?
This is a 4.25.
I think I agree. Yeah, I think I agree. Yeah, I mean, great new characters, amazing villain. Every character that is flawed, they made better. Like a solid 7-episode, great story arc.
Right.
Awesome one-liners by villains and by different characters. Crisp, great animated fight sequences.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
just some plot conveniences that
a couple,
that didn't agree with, but
a couple plot conveniences, a couple side stories that were probably like, I understand why you're here, but there's a lot of things going on because there's so many characters. We do care about a lot of the characters, if not all of them, but because there's so much going on, it can sometimes be messy. Or, I mean, there was at one point like 6 different plots, going on.
Right.
But overall, I think they handled it the best they could.
I don't disagree, and I'm looking forward to season 4. So,
and this was the first time that Nickelodeon greenlit 2 seasons back to back.
So after season 2, they immediately did. They were like,
they said you can have a season 3 and a season 4.
Cool. Okay.
So this is what they did with it. We're like season 1, they were like 12 episodes. We went a little mini series. And then they were like, you know what, that was good. We're gonna give you another season.
Wow.
And then, they were
look what happens when you plan in advance.
Exactly. No, seriously, I mean, I don't know. It was very much its own isolated story, but they knew it was, I would say this, it was an isolated story as for the villain and the plot, but they knew they knew that Korra was going to go somewhere. They knew where Korra was most likely going, her emotional stuff. They knew where like certain characters were going. So like in season 1, I think our biggest thing was like, well, what's Asami? Like, what are some of these characters in this story? Like, we know why they're here, but like, really, why are they here?
Yeah.
And, like, and it's like season 2. I think we complained about that in season 2, not season 1. Season 2, we were like, why is Asami here now? Like, I get it.
Right.
I get she's a character, but like, is Mako just here to be a love interest and to have like, like there are certain characters in season 2 where we both talked about it. We were like, there are multiple characters that are here simply because they were in season 1 and now they need to be tied into season 2. Where I feel like in season 3 and season 4, it's like they continue their story arcs from season 3. But why is Mako here? Because Mako, I mean, I feel like Mako becomes very much not even a character. Like what does Mako do?
He's just Bolin's brother at this point.
Yeah, like they've made Bolin more of went from comedic relief to an actual big character with a relationship, and it's like Mako just kind of seems like he's a side.
Yeah,
like he's like the 13th most important character right now.
Sure. So. I think he's the 12th most, but that's beside the point.
Oh, we'll argue about it later.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I'm gonna have to say that this is definitely gonna be a two-parter. We'll maybe do that with season 4 as well. There's more to talk about in the later seasons. Um, so part one's gonna come up Saturday. I'll probably make part two come up Sunday. Um, yeah, but yeah, that's our long-winded review of season 3.
All right.
Um,
Cabbage Crew, thanks for joining. We
yeah,
appreciate you. Thanks for tuning in.
subscribe.
Tell your friends, subscribe, keep
Tell your
watching
friends.
us,
Tell your friends. Tell your family. Tell your bisons that you're attached to.
or be Zahir and just not be attached to
Yeah,
anybody.
or just be easy here and jump off a cliff. You might not.
Or
You might.
be
You might not die.
highly
You might not die, but you will be THR. Right?
downhill rolling.
All right. See ya.
The Cabbage Crew. I was not expecting to talk for an hour.